Good evening, faithful. We are back, as is Bosa. You see my partner in crime celebrating there, wearing the 97, celebrating the big contract that was just signed in time for Bosa to be there in Pittsburgh. Welcome to another episode of Between Two Beards. My name is Rob Schuh. As always, my co-host, Randon McMahon. Randon, good evening to you. I know it's Friday evening and we're getting into the celebration. How are you doing this fine night?
Woo! Let's go, baby. Bosa's in town. Smaller bear. Let's get out of hibernation. Let's get some sacks. Week 1 Niners football. Let's go.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited for this. We got a lot of topics to get into, but as always, must say hello to everyone in the chat. We've got the Gabe Stivers show coming in, making the prediction 34-20, talking about who's going to score and everything. Raphael 562 Niners, also a sneakerhead here on the channel, saying good evening to me, Randon, and everyone, and reminding you to do the good deed of liking and subscribing while you're here. Fable JVC is in the house. Kim Adams is here. We've got gold-blooded. Hey, the Beardoes are back again. Happy Friday, faithful and gents. Niners 27, Pitt 13. So we got a couple of higher scoring Niners by a couple of scores here. We're due for our franchise quarterback. He says, way too long. I want Brock. I want to Brock and roll all night and Purdy every day. I haven't read one of those since last season, and it shows. Randall, sneakerhead here on the channel. Hey, Beards, enjoy the game Sunday and sticking with the win prediction, 27-6. Another drubbing. I tell you, people are predicting it. Cub Seb is in the building. Randall coming back in. Spy Nick Danger saying, go Niners. Derek, good to see you. All right, let's get into this thing. We will hit the chat in just a moment, but we're going to start talking about the game. At first, we're going to talk about Bosa. Let's talk about that number 97 you have on your chest. Overall thoughts, like going into this before the deal got signed, did you believe it was going to get done in time, or had you begun to doubt that we were going to see Bosa in Pittsburgh?
So, I wanted the deal done like September 1st at the latest.
That would have been nice.
Get him some chance at practice, bang against some heads, that type of thing, get his soft tissues warmed up to real football. It didn't happen that way. And according to multiple reports, Bosa ended the strife. So his agent was going for more than $32 million a year, trying to set because all these football players are like, hey, I just want 1,000 more or this more, I want more. He wanted to get his client, hey, nobody's ever going to top this for a couple of years. My client's going to be good. And Bosa's like, I want to be with my teammates. So he settled for $32 million or $34 million a year. That poor schlub, right? So,
right. That's tragic. I feel bad for him settling at that level.
Yeah. So, he'll never be able to afford anything again. So if anyone wants to send top
more boats
to Nick Bosa, do so. But I just think that it was interesting, the fact that everybody was saying that Shanahan was like getting ready. He was getting information from the publicist and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, right before he went on, Bosa signed. Bosa said, hey, we're ending this shit. I need to be with my teammates. I need to score. I need to be on the field. And in typical Bosa fashion, it's like, sorry for the scare. Let's win some games. Let's just be a team. That's his excitement. I don't know how you can be that less excited for $34 million, but that's what he was. And so let's boil this down to this. I'm just glad he's back.
Yes, that's a fact. I maintained that, hey, they would get the deal done in time. It is surprising to me that it took, but if the reports are true, that it took Bosa coming in to get the deal done. The Niners just had to pony up in this situation. You're going into a contract year. You have repeatedly called this person the linchpin of your defense, the most important player out there. He just won himself the Defensive Player of the Year. There are other contracts out there to set the bar against. The numbers in this one felt like they should have been locked in a while back, and it was surprising to me that they let it drag out as long as it did. If it had warranted Bosa not playing in week 1, I would have sharply criticized the Niners. I still think that there is caution to be had there. Will he be on a snap count? Will he be full goat? This is the type of player that if anyone can walk in the building and get right onto the field, it's Bosa. He maintains a level of readiness that not many players do. It takes the driven, right? I think back in the day, I would have equated it to Jerry Rice. If Jerry Rice had a contract situation and then signed, next day he could play. That dude kept himself in game day shape at all times. And I think the same is true on some level for Bosa. To me, it was the amount that needed to be paid. It's one of the premier players on the defensive side of the ball. He's at the right age to lock him down for this. I believe that this contract ages well. I think that it was the right amount that had to be paid in this instance. And I'm still interested to see more of the details and how it will impact the Niners and their dance against the salary cap. But I'm thrilled overall.
I think it's a great sign. And the difference, a lot of people online are like, oh, everybody was, bashing Debo and all this kind of stuff. And we were talking about this for months. And the key word is months. Why? Because Debo made it public. Right, Debo went out and said, hey, I'm removing all this stuff. I'm asking for a trade. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. He was trying to force the Niners' hand. Nick Bosa was like, dude, I'm the best player in football. He literally could be if you were to rank real people in that know football, he's literally top 5, including quarterbacks. So he knows his worth. He's like, hey, this is my value. You're going to have to meet me here. I get it. He didn't take himself off of social media, even though he's not on social media that much. But he didn't do any of that kind of stuff. He didn't ask for a trade. The only time that he ever said anything to the media is when the Niners put out stuff.
Yeah.
Right. John Lynch said, hey, we're not talking about this publicly. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, all of a sudden some national person said that the Niners have a offer on the table to make Bosa the highest paid edge. Where do you think that came from? The Niners front office. Right. And then the Bosa family is like, well, hey, we know what we're worth. We know what my son is worth. Pay us. And that was their response. And so I commend Nick Bosa for coming in and saying, hey, I want to be with my teammates and doing that. He already got what he wanted. I'm sure if he would have held out, he probably could have got 36 mil or so.
Especially if the Niners had lost week 1 in Pittsburgh without him there, he would have had immense leverage.
Yeah. But I'm glad that he's there. And I don't fear the in shapeness. He said, I'm ready for a full slate in his press conference. But I do think that you look at the difference between Debo and Bosa is the shape that they're in.
Right. The shape that they allowed themselves to, or that
Debo was not in shape. Yeah.
Right.
Debo was not in shape. He let the contract situation get the best of him. And Bosa still looks like a fucking dump truck. He's just ready to go. Yeah,
he's ready to crush some people. And I agree with what Randall's saying here, which is that idea that these contracts look very shocking when they come out and you are now the highest paid player at the position or in the NFL. And then go flash forward 2 years, all of a sudden you've fallen far down the list because these contracts just keep going up, people.
Next year?
Yeah, I know these numbers are shocking, but it won't be shocking for long. Pretty soon you'll be like, oh, Bosa needs a new extension.
Next year, this is going to ruin the Cowboys.
Oh,
Micah Parsons is going to want $35-36 million.
Yes, hold out, Micah. Hold out for it. You're worth it, my friend.
And especially, he has the talent to be Defensive Player of the Year. If he gets Defensive Player of the Year, there's no doubt in my mind that he gets $36 million. He changed his position on purpose. He was an outside linebacker who rushes the quarterback, and now he's like, no, I'm going to play in pure edge because he knew this was coming. This is going to ruin the Cowboys because Dak Prescott's going to make $59 million next year. $59 million for Dak Prescott, and then you're going to have a $40 million contract for Parsons.
I love it.
The Cowgirls are going down.
I absolutely love it. All right, we're transitioning topics here, but before we do, Derek has come in with the super chat. First super chat of the regular season belongs to Derek Groom. How confident are you guys in Purdy's arm after that injury? And do you guys predict a large bounce back season for Debo? Love the show, boys. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the kind words. I'll take this first and say, I feel confident in Purdy's arm based on the way in which most people recover from this surgery. I know that it's done far more often within baseball, but the recovery rates and the rate at which Purdy was able to get back on the field lead me to believe that it was a successful surgery, that it should be as strong, if not stronger than before. That time will tell, but I am confident in that piece. I do think that this is a big season for Debo. The problem working against Debo in my mind is all the mouths to feed. Brandon Ayuk looking like he's in the best shape of his career. Seems to be headed for a 1,000-yard season with all the talk that we've seen there, looking back at last year's production as well. McCaffrey obviously going to get fed. I just do wonder how many touches Debo, Kittle, and all will be able to get. So I don't know about a hugely dominant season, but I think physically it will be very, very dominant. Randon, how are you feeling about Purdy and Debo?
Well, I think Debo will have a better season. He's not going to be the number 2 wide receiver in football. He's just not. And that's because Chris McCaffrey is taking that away from him. The versatility that Chris McCaffrey has, playing the slot, playing the backfield, all that kind of stuff. Debo ain't going to have 50 carries, 60 carries, 70 carries this year. He's going to have maybe 10, 15. They're going to do some special stuff. And I think Kyle Shanahan needs to be more creative with that. Every time last year I saw Debo in the backfield, I knew it was a run play. So they need to have that kind of the variance there with the play calling. With Purdy, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced he's healthy, to be honest with you. They called it load management, which is a different term for arm fatigue, which is what Trey Lance got. So he's not ready. He's not ready to go. And can he throw 30 passes a game? I'm sure he probably could. But he took days off and he's doing all this kind of stuff. He's not 100% healthy. He's not. And he had you guys want to bash me in this in the chat, he had a noodle arm to begin with. So if his arm is not ready to go in the fourth quarter after throwing 20 passes, be ready for it. He can't throw that deep out. He can't throw that deep comeback. He can't throw that seam route. So he's got to rely on the timing routes, which good for him that Debo, Ayuk, Kittle can both win at the line of scrimmage. They both can get open and get separation. So he's got a lot of weapons that can do all that kind of stuff for him, but he's not going to be 100% healthy. And not only that, 60% chance of rain in Pittsburgh.
60%.
So you got the wet ball. I'm just saying that Purdy, hold the expectations of Purdy. 5 games. Everybody bashed Jimmy Garoppolo for signing that $25 million contract after 5 games. You got 8 games, and I'm just saying he's not Dan Marino here. So let's hold off.
Yes, indeed. I love the consistency in your take on Purdy. Fable JVC coming in. Hot take, noodle arm. Yes,
it's been hot for a year or so.
Consistent take from Randon. Absolutely is his view on it. I will say we'll send out a 49ers email address, an email address for the show, so that if we get some deep passes, you can send Randon those clips and he can watch them over and over again. But it's a fair critique of those days where he had to rest. Is that a sign of just, hey, we're going to make sure that when it's unnecessary to put that load on him, we're relieving it? Or is it a case where he did have legit arm fatigue and needed those days off? Is he not 100%? We will find out, and we're going to talk about season predictions when it comes to him as well. I just got to comment because I love the frustration.
I want to say bullpup here. Thank God he's not married. He never won one. You would be lucky to have Dan Marino on our roster. Just because he never won a championship doesn't mean he's not an excellent quarterback. You bum. Come on, man.
Randon, no need to insult the listeners.
No, come on. No. You got to know that he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, I am on board with that, though. I will say, Joe Montana just came out talking about Dan Marino as the greatest of all time. Much respect to Dan Marino.
I'm ready for the regular season.
No doubt about it. Hold on. There's someone else who's spicy, and I have to bring it on. Right. The Gabe Stivers show took offense, and I apologize. He says, "What the hell, Rob? I'm a new sneakerhead on your channel. I made a comment to open the show, which I did talk about at the beginning. If you go back, rewind, and watch that. He says, you didn't see that. What's wrong with you? I watched the show since 2022. I do try to get to comments. Gabe Stivers, I cannot get to all comments. If I miss it, it is not intentional. I try to hit the ones that are relevant to the conversation, but I appreciate the frustration. Just wanted to get to it. So you didn't think I was skipping that.
Gabe, let's get you one. Free question of the episode. Gabe, throw a question in there. We'll answer it.
Oh,
this episode.
You heard it. All All right, Raphael Futh, 5629ers, also a sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in with the super chat saying thoughts on the new captains. I did think that it was interesting that Bosa wasn't on there. I thought it was interesting that Debo was. I do think that speaks to the mentality Debo is coming back to play with this year. And for Bosa, it may have just been that awkwardness of he was still a holdout and you couldn't actually make him a team captain at that point. Any of those team captains surprise you or go the other way?
No, I just think that Bosa wasn't there and people are like, he's not here, right? Like, we can't have a captain that's not in the locker room. Like that, that I think that's all it is there. And there's really no like surprising. It's not like they're like, let's throw a rookie in there. Like it's your quarterback and a bunch of other veterans. I'm fine with that.
It was. I think it was 4-2 on offense over defense. Like you can't fault any of them. They're all top-notch players to be chosen. You
throw your sneakerhead up there eventually, please.
Throw whose sneakerhead up there?
Randall.
Oh, yes. This one.
No. Higher up.
Randall. Here we go. This one here. You want to go? 815. Yeah. Purdy already acknowledged he isn't a deep shot kind of guy, making Randon unfortunately correct, as much as I hate to admit it. I think there's a difference between not being a deep shot guy and having a noodle arm. I would love to have another roundtable where we bring Jack Hammer back on and we get a little debate going here on the fact that Jack believes Purdy can hit every throw on the field and Randon believes that there is a noodle in place of a human arm for the young quarterback. I guarantee there will be some shots taken this year. The other piece I will say, though, is Jimmy Garoppolo has proven within this offense, you do not need to be a deep ball thrower in order to be successful within Kyle Shanahan's offense.
No, Purdy is Brett Favre without the arm. Like he'll take all the shots necessary, but he doesn't have the ability in his arm to take the deep shots. And that's 1 or 2 shots a game. I'm not saying that's like a big like disparity in him or whatever, but hey, a 15-yard deep out, that's a tough throw, and he can't make that throw.
Yes.
He can't make it. So
I would disagree with that statement, but I hear you.
He can't make it without stepping into it hardcore. So, like, he can't fling that stuff. Like, you looked at last night.
Yes, he's not the type that's going to have flick of the wrist, amazing throws like a Joe Burrow,
you look at last
Mahomes.
night, Patrick Mahomes, 50-yard pass, getting rushed, flicked it, and it was incomplete, but it was 50 yards on the dime,
the incompletions I wouldn't blame on Patrick.
Well, every single wide receiver should be cut from that team. That was pretty bad last night.
Okay,
but let's getting back to it. I think Purdy's going to be a great quarterback for this team, and he's going to do what Shanahan wants. That's why he picked him. His first interview was like, "Hey, why were you so successful?" I just did what Shanahan told me to do. Like that's what Shanahan wants. He's a control freak, so.
Oh, he's definitely a control freak. Okay, We are still on our first topic because we have answered questions in the chat, which I love. Keep them coming in the chat. We're going to hit one more because we promised Gabe, and then we're moving on. Gabe, we got to work on the tone to these texts, though. These are not great. These are not super friendly, okay? We're cool, so let's keep it that way. He says, Rob, are you doing a post-game show on Sunday, yes or no? And you guys need to do a show with David. I'm assuming that's Lombardi. I agree. I would like to do a show with David Lombardi. What I'm saying tone-wise is maybe you should say you should do a show with David Lombardi. Anyways, yes, I will be doing a post-game show. Gabe, I'm just giving you a little bit of grief here for the tone in your texts because it feels like you're picking on me on live stream television here. We can't allow that, Gabe. Okay, we are moving on to topics. Bosa obviously signed his deal. Another player that signed a late deal last year and then came out with 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits was TJ Watt. This season, he gets to open up against Colton McKivitz. I cannot imagine that Colton is going to be sleeping all that well in preparation for this game because he's going up against one of the best. How do you view this one shaking out, and will this be a major concern for the Niners on Sunday?
It will. TJ Watt has the most quarterback strips of any other defensive end in the history of the NFL in the last 3 years. So he has an ability to get to the quarterback and just wipe that arm. And because, we trade away a very valuable asset in Trey Lance, and we have a quarterback who's thrown, I don't know what, or has 85 turnovers in 55 games in Sam Darnold, I'm not too thrilled in exposing the arm of a previous surgical occupant as Purdy is.
Previous surgical occupants.
to abuse, that is TJ Watt. So I'm definitely worried because he has a knack for getting to the football, getting to people's arms, causing mayhem. Like, he doesn't go for sacks, even though he has tons of sacks. He goes for the swipe, and he'll wreck you all the time. And I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding for Colton McKivitz. I know everybody's like, oh, he's he can do this and do that and all this kind of stuff. But TJ Watt's a beast, and he's faster than McKivitz. He's stronger than McKivitz, and he's got the acumen to demolish his side. Luckily for the Niners, it's going to be in his face. Like, it's going to be in Brock Purdy's face. So he should be able to sense that coming in and get rid of that. And then Kyle Shanahan, we saw that in 2019 a little bit, and other seasons where he's schemed things up for the quarterback to help him out. So hopefully that happens. But TJ Watt's it's a beast. There was a podcast out the other day, and this Steelers beat writer was like, "Why is TJ Watt not doing well in camp?" And it's like, I don't know, like, he's just whatever, this and that. TJ Watt heard that, and next camp he had 5 sacks in the first 5 plays. And it's like, yeah, he was holding back because people need reps, right? Like, people need reps all the time, and TJ Watt's just our game wrecker. I'm super nervous on this, to be honest.
Absolute game wrecker. I like what Ian had to say here. Protect the little fella. I hope he's talking about our Mr. Irrelevant in protecting Brock Purdy from the brutal assault. I am worried about this. I think this is the way this game goes sideways, if indeed it does, right? If the Niners cannot get the run game going early, which I have to think is part of the core to the plan. You're going cross country, early start, East Coast against a tough defense in a loud environment. In the rain, the way in which you settle your young quarterback who's just coming back from significant surgery is to get the run game going. Now, Pittsburgh will be well aware that Shanahan wants to do that. If we're unable to earn 4+ yards per clip, then I'm worried, because it becomes obvious when those passing situations arise. You have a choice, because you're talking about a great set of ends on both sides. So who are you going to chip? Who are you going to help? We'll talk about the rest of the defensive line in just a moment. But it is TJ Watt who's the single man game wrecker, coming back 2 sacks, 5 hits after signing a late contract. You got to imagine he's capable of doing something similar here. And if he does, that changes the look of this game. My hope is that this offense is so versatile, has so many weapons, that Kyle Shanahan will be able to get it going, and we will see a flourish of this offense from day one, as opposed to years past where we had to wait for the offense to sort of warm up over the first 5 weeks. So my hope is that this does not become an issue, but it certainly presents itself as a distinct possibility. If I put the over-under at 1.5 sacks, where are you going on this, Randon?
Well, under, because 2 sacks a game is tough. But
yeah, very tough.
I do think he gets a sack, and I do think he gets maybe 5 pressures this game. Like, he's going to dominate Colton McKivitz. There's no doubt in my mind. And if George Kittle is active, he's spending most of the time blocking. Like, and maybe Warner was listed on like second on the depth chart, so maybe he's going to block, and then you get Kittle to go out and run some routes. But like, McKivitz says he ain't ready. Like, he's just not ready.
We sure as shit will find out if he is ready after Sunday, man. I just want to put this back in because, hey, Gabe came back in to say, hey, sorry about the tone. Next time I'll make a better comment. Had a rough day. I just want to say, I'm giving you a little grief earlier, Gabe. No hard feelings here. Totally understand that you can have a rough day. I'm sorry to hear that, honestly.
And Gabe, okay, Gabe, we like the ball busting, man. We like that kind of nature. Rob just giving you the shit. Give us the shit back. Appreciate you watching the show.
All shit is tolerated. I saw shit flying in from Bullpup towards Randon. It made me smile, even if I didn't bring it in, because we had to keep the topics going. I'm going to take the under on that as well. I don't think he manhandles Colton McKivitz. I do think that he gets his. I think TJ Watt gets his, gets a sack, gets some pressures, but I don't think he makes Colton McKivitz look foolish. And maybe I'm just hoping that. All right, let's talk about the rest of that defensive line. What are the biggest components here for you on this, and who wins that battle of those trenches?
I mean, everybody thinks that Trent Williams is just immune, right? But
Right.
he's played the least amount of snaps of any offensive lineman in the preseason for a starting offensive lineman. And he's going against Alex Highsmith. And Alex Highsmith, if you don't know who he is, he's got 14 and a half sacks last year, right?
Wee.
4 years in the NFL, 26 years old, out of Charlotte, 242 pounds, but 14 and a half sacks last year. And he's just an animal. Like, you listen to all the beat writers for the Steelers, and him and TJ Watt, when the second team defense is on the field, they're just doing hand movements to each other all the time. They're like hand fighting. They're like Mortal Kombat. They're just doing this, right? And I can't believe that everybody's like, oh, TJ Watt's the only person on the defense. They've led the league in sacks. I think 5 of the last 6 years. Like, they know how to get to the quarterback.
Yes, they do.
This team is not immune to just TJ Watt.
No.
So the fact that Trent Williams, yeah, he's our best offensive lineman, but he's had the least amount of reps. He's getting older. He's not immune to having a loss.
No.
And that loss could come in a big moment in the game where we need to score. 14 and a half sacks is a lot of sacks. It's a lot of sacks, man. And I think that everybody's like, oh, I'm fine with Trent Williams. I'm fine with the other side. You know, McKivitz, TJ Watt, that's the big battle. But don't discourage the other side of the field where Trent Williams hasn't had his reps. He hasn't played against Nick Bosa all camp. He hasn't gone up against anybody that is that potent, right? Cleveland Farrell, four sacks like his entire career. You're looking at all these defensive ends have had nothing. You don't have that Nick Bosa where they're sparring all the time, right? 2 years ago, we were talking about Nick Bosa, Trent Williams. Everything was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, yeah, iron sharpens iron, all this kind of stuff. They're going back and forth. All those reps mean a lot. And you're going straight up against a guy that had almost 15 sacks last year. I think that might be not a weakness, but I think that's a cautionary tale for the Niners coming into week 1.
I like your logic here, and I like the way that you're not just taking this for granted, that you're exploring it. I gotta say, I am on the opposite side of this fence. I am on the belief that Trent Williams is one of those guys that doesn't need those snaps, that coming up against quality play will have him ready to go, and that I do think he comes out of this one with a clean sheet. Derek is with me. He says he's not getting one this game, talking about the sacks racking up to 14 and a half. He will have to find them somewhere else. Yeah, I'm more worried about seeing Cam Hayward go against the law firm, against the interior of our offensive line, because I think that Hayward is a game wrecker in and of himself, not of the degree that TJ Watt is. But when you have that interior pressure, especially against a quarterback like Purdy or in seasons past, Jimmy Garoppolo, who like to throw short intermediate passes, a lot of shots over the middle of the field, a lot of timing routes, pressure right up the middle can really disrupt that offense. And so I'm in lockstep with you that this is a key matchup. The defensive line of the Steelers is a very key matchup in this game. It will play a huge role in the outcome of it as to whether they're pushing us around or we're pushing them around. I believe that the law firm is up to the task, but I will say Cam Hayward does disrupt some. So I believe that this one is going to go back and forth. Definitely giving TJ Watt his one sack, probably going to give Cam Hayward a sack in this one. And I think that defense of Pittsburgh and that defensive line is going to keep this one a lot closer than most of those score predictions we saw from the comments earlier in the program. I do not think that we win this one by 2 scores. I think this is a lot closer, a bit more of a defensive slugger knot that comes out. You made this point pre-game, pre-show, and I'm going to give it to you, but Mike Tomlin has his guys ready to roll, like always does. He is the type of coach that regardless of talent level, and don't get me wrong, Pittsburgh has always had a good level of talent while he's there, but he rallies them. He is a leader of men. I just know that he's going to have Pittsburgh ready to punch us in the mouth, and I think that's going to be a close one for the Niners.
He's a better coach than Kyle Shanahan, just flat out. Like, it's just
I'll give you better leader of men for sure.
And like he's never had a losing season, regardless of quarterback. So thank you, William Bennett. Great to see you too.
William Bennett, good to see you, my friend. It has been too long. Sorry, Randon, please go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, Tomlin's never had a losing season. 8-8 with Kyle Rudolph, or not Kyle Rudolph, but Mason Rudolph and a bunch of backups. Like, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's had multiple losing seasons with backups, but Tomlin found the way to lead his team to at least a 500 season. He's a better head coach than Kyle Shanahan. Not saying that he'll win this matchup, but his team is going to be ready. And there's no doubt about that in my mind.
Yeah, no doubt that they will be ready to play in this one. All right, there's been a little bit of trash talk about Purdy and some tells, and sure, that came from a different defender named Mr. Peterson, but Minkah Fitzpatrick is the ball hawk on this defense. Let's be very clear about that. Yeah. Was a leader in the league in interceptions last season. Has been in the mix in that regard for years. I tell you what, when they first traded for Fitzpatrick from Miami, I was like, you overpaid for a safety. I admit I was wrong. May I humbly admit that I was wrong. That first round pick was absolutely worth it for Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is a baller. Do I think that he comes away with one in this one? It's a toss-up for me. I'm going to say no. The only reason I feel like I should go the other way is because of that pressure that's going to be in Purdy's face. That perhaps there is a certain individual, Cam Hayward, big human being, right in front of Purdy, and he pulls an old Jimmy Garoppolo and lets one fly a little bit early. A linebacker he didn't see comes flying across the field and gets a pick. But I'm saying that does not happen. But if I'm wrong, that's how I'm going to be wrong.
I mean, on draft day, number 9 overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers select I was hoping they would select Fitzpatrick. That's what I was hoping for, and they selected McGlinchey. So, like, I've been wanting this guy for a long time. Dude, this guy's a dynamo. This guy's ready to go. And I don't think it's about pressure or anything. This guy is smart, right? Most of the interceptions, everybody's like the Garoppolo interceptions are to the linebacker or to the free safety because they jump the route. Like, he's going to know when it's going on, and the interception is going to come from him understanding our offense. Because if you listen to all the Steelers beat writers, which I have, I've been listening to episodes this week, he watches more film than Kenny Pickett. Him and Kenny Pickett are they watch film together, and they go about offense and defense, and then he stays and watches more film. Like, that's how much he is dedicated to his craft. The mistake is going to be from the offense. He's going to dictate what Kyle Shanahan's going to do. Not dictate, but he's going to predict what Kyle Shanahan's going to do, and he's going to jump that route. That's how he's going to get his pick. Not because of pressure or whatever. He's just a physical specimen, and he uses that with his mental acumen, and he's going to get a pick that way. I think I would go over on one turnover for Fitzpatrick this week.
You would take the over. That is incredible.
No, he not over on one. I mean, I think he's
you're taking the one. You're taking he gets one.
Yeah.
If it's a half, you're taking the over on that. All right. I'm with you on it. I see a couple of comments I wanted to bring in. One, I like the greatest 49 sneakerhead here on the channel says, hey, Patrick Peterson had 5 picks last year. I'm not sleeping on his old ass, LOL, but I doubt he picks off Brock Purdy 13. Well, you heard it here that the interception predicted by Randon is by Minkah Fitzpatrick and not by the one talking trash. I am interested to see, though, if there really are some tells and if it looks like the Steelers defense is on top of Purdy.
So they were talking about it last night in the Chiefs and Lions games and how the offense lines up. And you had Amon-Ra St. Brown open on a seam route down the field. He beat the safety, and Jared Goff took the easy dig route. That is a Shanahan-style offense to where the dig route is timed and you have to take that route versus an open receiver. And you're looking at a receiver or a quarterback who's willing to take those chances is Matt Stafford, right? So you have a quarterback who is willing to take those chances and is able to take those reads in McVay's offense, which is a Shanahan-style offense. Purdy is not able to take those chances. He doesn't have the arm talent to do so. He might have the gunslinger mentality, but he ain't able to just flick that shit 40 yards down the field.
No.
So either he's going the dig route or he is planting his foot in the ground and throwing 40 yards. And so the safety is able to come up and pick that off. Why do you think Jimmy Garoppolo had so many linebacker or safety interceptions? It's because they know what's coming. That dig route is coming all the time. And so that's what I'm talking about. Minkah Fitzpatrick watches film. He knows what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, Purdy's a gunslinger. He might try to off his back foot and just hoist that up and let somebody catch it up. But you know the receivers on this team, they're not catch point receivers. Debo's not a catch point receiver. Kittle's not a catch point receiver. Ayuk's not a catch point receiver. Down the line, because Shanahan doesn't value those types of guys. They value.
You know who is though? Jawan Jennings.
No, he's not.
3rd and Jawan. Let's go. You absolutely. He high points it. No doubt.
He's not a downfield high point receiver. He's not. He's slower than me.
I'm not going to put him as a deep threat, but
he's slower than me. And
if you give him enough time and chuck it up, my man's coming down with the ball.
I haven't stretched since 2007, and I can outbeat him in the 40s. So, like, let's come on here with that. I'm just saying that the offense doesn't generate for what the Steelers are trying to do against us. They know what's going on. And they have the best player on the field is going to be able to roam. He did that in Alabama for 3 years. He started as a true freshman, which never happens at Alabama. Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best safeties in all of football. And I would say he's getting a turnover this game. He just is.
Say Minkah Fitzpatrick 4 times fast.
I couldn't even say it 1 time as fast, you know?
All right, let's flip to the other side of the ball. We've talked a lot about the 49ers offense. Let's talk about the 49ers defense against Pittsburgh. Obviously was the top defense in the league last year. It looked different in the preseason, at least with regard to stopping the run. It became enough of a concern that Shanahan and Steve Wilks were both willing to comment on it and say, no, it is a focus. We're not going to allow that going forward. How do you think that we match up against the Pittsburgh offense that focuses primarily on the run game and themselves on a healthy dose of the short passing game, hopefully leading to those yak yards for them as well?
I think the Steelers offense is very underrated, to be honest with you. I think you had a rookie quarterback last year. He got thrown in the fire, which is, what you needed to do. But they had a, over 500 record with a rookie quarterback. You have Najee Harris, which is the staple of that offense, right? Deontay Johnson had very good numbers last year outside of touchdowns, right? 156,
he did, yeah.
156 targets, and I think 95 receptions. Like, he's going to be in that play right there. So I think their offense is really good. Pat Freiermuth their offense has got a lot of long names. Jesus Christ. So like they got a
Brandon's struggling with 3 syllables right now.
I know. I'm really struggling. Sorry. Hey, we're drinking some beers while trying to sell some cars. It is what it is. So,
hey, man, you got the sale. Let the people know you got the sale.
I got the sale. I made some money. So I'm just saying that their team has got some players. Like, I don't care if he wears 3 gloves. I don't care if he didn't. I don't care if Deontay Johnson didn't catch a touchdown. Like, look at their offense. Like, watch some tape. And I don't watch a lot of tape, but I watched a lot of tape this week. And I think that their offense is very underrated. Like, Kenny Pickett throws one of the best deep balls I've ever seen. Like, it just great out of his hand. He has great touch, great anticipation, and their offense is going to have that. And there's no cornerback on our team that really can go one-on-one with Pickens. Maybe Charvarius Ward, he has that speed and he can get in position, but you can't body him up 1-1.
Yeah, and so, he's a little dinged up.
And he's got the heel, right? So I think they have a very much an offense that can exploit what we're doing. Now, this is what no Niners fan wants to hear. What is Wilkes going to do? Like, we don't know what he's doing. Like, is he going to dial blitz? Is he going to do this kind of stuff? Like, we're so used to rushing 4 and sitting back for the last couple of years. Is he going to put us in a situation that is not advantageous to us, right? Is he going to blitz somebody and then we're going to get dinged because of that? That's what I'm more worried about here is Steve Wilks rather than the players.
There are a couple of unknowns for me. I think you're right about what kind of a game is Steve Wilks going to call? Will he be more aggressive? And if he is more aggressive, does that play in our favor, or do we get burned on those? Cub Seeb coming in with this comment, which is speculation as well, but a lot of people talking about it. Lenore potentially coming inside on the nickel. And then if you have Mooney Ward out, that does become highly problematic. So what do we look like in the secondary there? And then the third question mark for me is around the run game. Are we going to be able to consistently stop the run against Pittsburgh? Because I will tell you what, the Steelers of old will rise again if Mike Tomlin gets a smell that we can't stop the run. He would not be afraid to run the damn ball 40 times down our throats at home in Pittsburgh if we are unable to stop the run and if we're allowing breakaway runs into the second level. That's going to be highly problematic. I believe now that Bosa is back, now that this defense is fully assembled, like Voltron, it has come together at this point.
Avengers!
You're absolutely going to be looking.
Sorry.
Yes, you are absolutely going to be looking at a top defense. And if Wilks dials up these pressures successfully, I think he has tools to do it. He's got Fred Warner. He's got Talanoa Hufanga. Now he's got Ji'Ayir Brown. Like, he's got creative ways he can get in. The nickel that he brought in as a blitzer as well. Like, you have a lot of options. Will it pay out? Randall wants to know. Risk reward. We will find out. Hey, you coming in, Wilks, and his love for the blitz. It is a little bit scary. If we are ahead in these games, I want to see some experimentation. Shanahan tends to tighten up in some of these closer matchups against more defensively dominant teams. If that's the case, do you really want someone playing fast and loose with the blitzes on the other side of the ball? Man, if it pays off, he will be another favorite for fans. But if it doesn't, and you have two successful defensive coordinators prior to, it could be a lot of criticism headed Wilks' way.
We don't have the secondary for that.
We don't have the secondary to blitz on that level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're moving Lenore into the slot, and then you're playing Ambry Thomas on the outside when he wasn't even a thought in every fan's mind last season. All of a sudden, he has 3 good preseason games, and all of a sudden, he's our starting corner. Like, now you're going to put that much pressure on him by blitzing to go one-on-one with number 1 receivers. I don't know if you looked on the other side of the offense there, but Pickens is a good receiver. Deontay Johnson's a good receiver. You know, like, and what Calvin Austin is their slot. He has 4.3 speed. Those guys can't hang with those receivers. Like, you have to have zone and cohesiveness in that defense. Like, blitzing is just going to give them more susceptibility to deep balls, and I don't like it at all.
What's your gut say as far as Mooney Ward playing on Sunday? My gut says he does play, that it is just, he's a little dinged up, but that he's out there.
He's going to gut it out, and it's not going to be a big deal for us. I think he's going to get tested a little bit to see his mobility, and if it's bad, they're going to exploit that. But if it's not, they're going to go to the other side of the field, which they would have done if he was fully healthy, right? So
yeah,
like, it's almost that Richard Sherman aspect where they just stay to one side of the field. They're going to exploit the younger players.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree, Randall. We're not critiquing Wilks. It's more of a question of what will we see. Freaky saying if it's raining hard, maybe Charvarius Ward doesn't play. That's an interesting take on that. It is 60% according to Weatherman Randon. Okay, switching gears a little bit, talking about both of the quarterbacks. Both are now second-year quarterbacks returning from reasonably successful rookie seasons. Obviously, Brock Purdy's was highlighted at a great deal more than on the opposite side, but the Steelers finished the season 6-1 down the stretch, and a lot of buzz in Pittsburgh coming out of camp about their young quarterback. Which one do you think plays a little rustier this weekend? Who gets jammed up by the other defense? Who looks worse in this one?
Well, who has more rust is Purdy. It's no doubt.
Can't argue that.
not only the surgery, he only had one game. I mean, the Steelers have played all their starters every single preseason game. They play their starters more snaps than any other franchise in the NFL. So they're getting their team ready to go. So whether Kenny Pickett will have a better game than Purdy, that's not the question. I think that the rust is evident for Purdy. Like, you look at, he only completed short passes. He wasn't pushing the ball downfield. They scheduled these plays for him to make him look good. Now, will he be ready to go? I don't know. But the Steelers have played Pickett every single game. He threw the ball downfield. He had those bruises going on. Yeah. He got hit in sacks. Purdy hasn't gotten that. And so, and I think Purdy's a gamer. I think he's an absolute gamer. I think he has the mentality to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, a great starting quarterback in the NFL. But what happens when you see that rush off the right side or your throwing side, and you're about ready to throw the ball and you're ready for that TJ Watt, this? Are you gonna tense up, or are you gonna step up, or whatever? That happened with Jimmy Garoppolo with his ankle. That happens with a lot of quarterbacks, and risk of injury again. And in one series in a preseason game, Kyle Shanahan can scheme that up to make him look good. But in a full game, he has to put his body on the line, and where is his head on that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one, that I think that the player who is more likely to look a little bit rusty coming into this one is, in fact, our Brock Purdy, because it is an East Coast game with an early start. That's going to be a strike against him just in the mental game. He is coming back from major injury. He is going against a ferocious defensive front. Now, you could say the same of Pickett going against a ferocious defensive front, but he's not coming off of injury. There is some goodwill, and he's the underdog, right? Brock Purdy comes back in as needing to prove it again. He needs to prove why the Niners shipped off Trey Lance. Now, I don't think he actually has to prove that, but that's the storyline, right? That's the through line that people are going to be talking about. And I do think that there's going to be a lot of pressure. I see Shanahan probably tensing up in this one. I see it being a close game. I do think Purdy makes some mistakes. I still believe that we win it. I like Charles Alt's comment here, Sneakerhead here on the channel. He says, Rob, are you two playing good cop and bad cop? For every good comment you have, Randon shoots it down. No, it is endless positivity here, followed by still believing the Niners are dominant, but liking to talk some shit and going on some rants. It's what makes for a good show. It is the difference.
Between two beers doesn't happen without both of us. And so
yeah. Happy positive beard, negative sad beard.
I need more beard oil to get me nice and saucy here. But I think I like the Niners. I think if you're a fan and you fully like, hey, the Niners are good at everything, there's no bad decisions in the front office, you're blind. I think you are. I think you have to have critical nature here with the team. Like, we've made very bad decisions in the front office with quarterbacks, and now we're moving on. We got Brock Purdy. It is what it is. But this team isn't immune. This team is not immune to good things. Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, and they brought back every player on their front line, every single one, and they didn't make the playoffs. So, like, it can happen all the time with the front office and players and going on. And if you think Brock Purdy's going undefeated this year, you are asinine with your thinking, because it just doesn't happen. Like, last year was special.
Very unlikely.
Last year was very special.
Huge.
And I was a fan of it. Like, I was all about it. I sat at the bar and watched. I was like, man, Garoppolo got injured. We're putting a rookie in. Like, he's barely gotten any fucking pub, and he's a 7th round pick. This is going to be real bad. And I was delightful with him showing up the way he did. So am I thinking that we're going to lose, like, and be out of the playoffs? No. Do I think we're a playoff team? Yes. Do I think we're a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely. I just am very truthful with how I speak about things.
Yeah, and I think you have to, for me, there are two things true at one time. So Cub said coming in, hey, they've made extremely bad decisions. I would qualify that and say they've made some extremely bad decisions. Absolutely. A lot of things that you could critique about this front office, about this coaching staff, and they should be critiqued. That said, they have made far more good decisions than they have bad, and that's evidenced by the fact that they have been in 3 out of 4 NFC championship games in talking about the last 4 seasons. And I know that Randon believes that as well. But he tends to want to call out and talk about those things where he feels they could have done better. I feel that makes for great dialogue as well. I just want to bring in Josh Cook here. He had a comment. He says, "Hey, gentlemen, hope all is well. I'm so glad the Niners got Bosa signed. I'm of the opinion that Big Cock Brock is a gamer and will be ready." In talking about will there be any rust there. Also, Randall coming in.
I don't think that Purdy will be not ready for the moment. I think he'll be 100% ready here. For people that are, well, I guess everybody's listening live here and here, but his arm, like he's been on a snap count. Everybody's like, oh, it's load management. It's arm fatigue. Like he's been gearing up to be a starting role. Realistically, everybody thought that he would be ready to throw right now, but he was ready at the beginning of the camp. Reason being, he didn't want to lose his job. And so he's been dialing it up. The Niners have been accommodating to what he had to do. He's been moving along and everything's been fine. He hasn't had any setbacks, but he's still on a snap count with his arm. Like he's not 100%. He really isn't. And everybody wants to think that he's 100%. It's just not like scientifically evident that he's there.
That's why they call it load. There is certainly evidence to the contrary. You can make a case based off of that load management that he is not 100%. You could also make the case that they're just following protocol and that he is 100%. They just don't want to push him.
Protocol, management, whatever you want to call it. He's not like there would be no words if he was really 100%, right? Like he would just be there.
Yeah, it's a fair point. All right, let's talk about the game itself. How does this thing shake out? We're going to finish up with season predictions to wrap this show, but let's talk about the game on Sunday. Throw your game predictions in the comments as well. We will get those in there. Win, loss, score predictions. We shall do whatever we please here live, but feel free to put them in the chat.
So game predictions, I think that the Steelers are going to be able to throw the football more fervently than what we expect. I think that they're going to be able to move the ball downfield. I think that Pickett's going to take more deep balls, whether that's going to be accurate or not, or they're going to come down with those is going to be, those are chance. Anything over 40 yards is going to be, a chance in the field there. Najee Harris is a good running back. He's going to be able to catch the balls out of the backfield. They addressed offensive line movement. I think their defensive line is going to dominate our offensive line, to be honest with you. In the pass game, I think this game is going to be closer than a lot of people think, and I think that we win 21-17, maybe. That's where I kind of feel like this is going to be.
I like that score prediction. I'm just going to bring it in because it's so funny to me that we.
Well, I want to see a Moody field goal. So what is that going to be like? 2016, 2017? Yeah. So 2 field goals by Moody, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, 2017.
I like that. Mitchell and Ness, I just got to bring this in because I think it's funny that we're still trying to bring it back to this. Says, if Purdy struggles in the rain, I'm going to be laughing so hard, the double standard compared to Lance's rain game. The further we get away from the trade, and I wish Lance nothing but the best, wished him the best when he was here, wish him the best as he goes. The idea that we have to keep rehashing it, and I get it, Mitchell and Ness, like it is top of mind. Everybody's talking about it. But it's the relief of no longer having to revisit that with the same level of intensity is a relief to me.
But that's going to be a topic. If the Niners lose on Sunday and it's a rain game and Purdy looks bad, that's going to be the
100%. If the Niners have a slow start to the season, there will be talk of, was that a mistake? Like, we are not done with the conversation. I'm just hoping we're further away from it than we have been. So I share your sentiment about this being a close game. I think that Pittsburgh will have some success running the ball. I'd expect Najee Harris to average about 4 yards a clip. I do think they will take 1 or 2 successful deep shots down the field. Won't be surprised if Deontay Johnson comes down with one of those. They will try to dink and dunk. I saw someone talking about that being a loaded term in the comments as well. But the short and intermediate game, and I think that they stay in this because of that. They have a loud home crowd. It's going to be tough on our offense. Purdy is going to have a little bit of rust in this one. And I believe the offensive weapons for the Niners are just too great for them to lose it. I like your score prediction. I'm going to go. It's hard for me to differentiate much from where you are. I'm going to take the Niners.
You don't have to.
23-17. I think Moody kicks 3 field goals just to prove he was worth the pick.
Straight out of the quad injury, he's just going ham, huh?
Going ham. If you can smash the over on Moody, smash it, my friend.
All right, I have him in almost every single one of my fantasy football leagues, to be honest with you. So
that's phenomenal. We've got predictions here. Raphael 562 Niners. Sneakerhead here on the channel says Niners win 27-23. Cub Seb says 20-13 Niners. Bullpup 16-17. I'm guessing that is a prediction of the 49ers not winning this one. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be shocked if the Steelers upset the Niners. It's not a huge upset considering just 2-point favorites.
Chance. Yeah, sorry. The rain is 60% chance, but it's not supposed to be heavy. Like, there's not a guarantee that's heavy. Like last year, there was almost a guarantee there was rain coming in, and everybody's worried. Like this year, it could miss. So it could be a sunshine and dances and rainbows, and these predictions could be different. But I choose to caution Mother Nature.
Yes, caution. DJ Molly is bringing in small block, big block comparisons. I'm here for any car talk. He says, Rob, Brock's got a small block arm. Give him time. That big block's coming. San Francisco 31, Pittsburgh 16. Liars says we lose 13-6. Liar. I just had to do that. I mean, it felt so fitting right there. Randall, Pickett will get picked 3 times. Book it. Remember, Randall, with the all caps, we have to remember.
Not a chance.
Peter Lee, 27-20 Niners. Derek with the prediction, Hufanga pick 6. Man, Derek points out, hey, Kyle's 2-4 in week 1. Won't be shocked if they lose, but I think they make it 3-4. Okay, so a lot of predictions for the Niners to win, some big, some close, a couple predictions of Pittsburgh not blowing it out, winning this one by a little bit. That's our game prediction. Randon and I have both picked the Niners to win. I want to get into some season predictions here. The first one is like, hey, well, any 1K rushers? Like, of course, that's going to be CMC. The question here is, do the Niners get bit by the injury bug when it comes to the backfield? Do any of the rushers reach that 1,000-yard mark, or do we have 3 different rushers all in that 600 to 850 range as we have 2019 being the most recent?
No, I don't think we get a 1K rusher. I think you look at McCaffrey last year, I think it was 3.5 yards per rush. Even if he stays healthy the entire time, I don't think he gets there. I think they spell him quite a bit. They want to keep him light on his feet. They don't want to injure him where he's at. Everybody wants to put him in the 1K1K club. I just don't think it's that point. I think he'll probably get 600 yards receiving, maybe 800 yards on the rushing, 1,400, 1,500 yards total is where I would put him at. But I think he misses that because the fact that I think the Niners, we should be winning a lot of games. They'll take him out of the lineup and let the other rushers get in there.
That would be a fair prediction, that if we're up big in some of these games that you get a little bit of rust. That would be a nice thing to do for CMC. A lot of predictions coming in here. I love it. I'm putting them all up. The greatest 49 Sneakerhead says, Rob, our defense is going to pick it 5 times. 5 times. That's amazing. Charles Alt saying Niners 24-17. Jeremy saying Niners 24-13. Liar says we will score 1 touchdown, but Moody will miss an extra point. Lots of predictions coming in. I'm going to go back to the question at hand. And Cub Seb talking a little bit about, hey, 1K for CMC. Randon, you just definitively said you do not believe he will hit the 1K mark. Don't believe he will hit the 1K mark rushing. I do. I think he surpasses the 1,000-yard mark rushing. I do not believe he hits the 1K club again. I believe we're looking at a situation where he hits 2,000 yards from scrimmage, but it is more rushing yards than receiving yards. I'm going somewhere in that 1,250, 750 range, but I do think he hits 2,000, and I will say yes, the Niners have a 1,000-yard rusher.
Then you guys better bet on all that because his rushing total on Underdog is 850.
Boom. That's a lock in Rob Schuh's book. Send me the bill if you miss out on that. I probably won't open that bill, but you can send it to me. Are there going to be 1,000-yard receivers? And if so, how many, sir?
1.
Who will that be?
Wouldn't you like to know? No, I'm just kidding. I think it's Ayuk. To be honest with you, I think Ayuk's the best receiver on our team. George Kittle's already injured. I know Debo has come back with a vengeance, and I think that he comes around here. But you're looking at the over/under for yards for Purdy. We'll get to that later. Is not very high, and so Vegas has a nice little breakdown here. And I just don't think that I don't think that there's going to be more than one. And you look at it with injury, chances for all three wide receivers. All three of them get injured. All three of them have separation. And then you have CMC making 2,000 yards, in your opinion. Like there's not a lot of yards left over. I think one wide receiver / tight end makes it over the 1,000-yard club.
Yeah, I got to go with you 100% on it's one, and it's Brandon Ayuk. I believe that Debo will have over 1,000 yards from scrimmage himself. I don't think it's 1,000 receiving yards, and George Kittle could get close to it. But at this point, I just do believe that, hey, he's still worth what we're paying him, and he will not suit 17 games. And if you're not going to suit up for 17 games as a tight end in an offense that has a lot of mouths to feed, then it will be difficult to reach the 1,000-yard marker. So I'm going with you on this one, Brandon Ayuk.
I have a question for you, because Liars comes in there and says, I'd be very surprised if Purdy plays 17 games. Does your prediction dictate if Sam Darnold's in there? Because he's much more a deep ball thrower. He's much more of a gambler than Purdy is. Does that change it for you? Does that change it for Kittle? Or does that make Ayuk more like a voluntary weapon? How does that work for you?
It doesn't change it for me. To me, the equation for Kittle is, can he play 17 games? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's probably 15 games this season. And in playing that, I think it's tough to get there. I don't think a deep ball thrower favors Debo in that regard. So I don't think it shifts it. I would think that it would skew Brandon Ayuk further, that if he had more deep shots, could have an 1,100-yard season, a 1,200-yard season, but I still think he's probably the only 1,000-yard receiver.
Now, I'm gonna pose this question to you, because I thought this for a while now. Obviously, Debo did not come into camp in shape. He admitted that. He said the contract situation got the best of him. And then the year before that, he was a wide back. He was used the second half of the season as a running back, which now obviously Christian McCaffrey is. But before that, he was on pace for 1,700 yards as a wide receiver. In his rookie year, he was on pace for over 1,200 yards before he got injured. So Debo Samuel is a very adequate wide receiver. He can win at the line of scrimmage.
Definitely.
He's got the yak, all that kind of stuff like that. And so everybody thinks that because Ayuk was the only 1,000-yard receiver, granted, he only barely made it at 1,000, I think 56 or 75. But hey, great receiver. But are we undersleeping on Debo and what he's going to do? He came into camp saying that he's ready to dominate. He's ready to go. Is Debo the number one guy, and Ayuk's going to take a back door? Because what Shanahan wants to do, right? He wants to get those guys on the slants. He wants to get guys in the middle of the field and let them erupt. Now, Ayuk can do those same things, but he's more the downfield threat. He's more the crossers and the comebacks and the high curls. I think there's a part to the season where you could see Debo Samuel getting 1,400 yards because of the fact that he's utilized.
Absolutely could.
In a wide receiver way, rather than a wide back, which is what we thought last year would be.
Yeah, it absolutely could. That's the one component that I think it's hard to measure, is Debo and his ferocity and the way in which he came back in shape. I'm with Derek here, though. This is about my ballpark of how I would see it breaking out. I'd put Kittle in between 850 to 950, BA right about 1,100 with Derek, plus or minus 50. Debo 900. I'm probably closer to 850 with Debo, and CMC probably closer to 700. But Derek here, I think, does a good job of summing up how I see this breaking out, and the idea that there are so many mouths to feed in this offense. All right, let's switch to defense here. Big Bosa just got paid. You're wearing the jersey. I feel like that means you should hit this prediction on the nose. Does he set the record? Does he drop off? How many sacks for Bosa in this one?
I think he's in shape, but I also think that, game shape is different than real shape, right? Like, we all know he's like negative 7.5% body fat. Like, he's just a animatronic cyborg at this point. But you're looking at a guy who has been ready to go, but his only training partner in life is Joey Bosa, and he reported to camp in June. So like he's been training with his dad, who was 50-something years old, at his house. His mom's making him 17 egg omelets, all this kind of stuff. Like he's not ready for game shape. Like he's in shape, but he's not ready for game shape, right? And so, why? The Niners checked day one. If they thought he was in shape, they would just let him practice. But the first day, the strength and conditioning coach, him and Bosa were one-on-one the whole practice, seeing if he's ready to go. Because the Niners knew that he would probably be in shape, but they wanted to check.
Yeah.
He ain't ready for. He said he's ready for a full load. I don't think he's ready for a full load. I think he'll probably get a sack or two because he's just a beast. He's just a machine. And if you're this long, drawn out, Randon way of coming to this thing, I'm saying 18.5 is what I'm saying.
18.5. I like it. I do think he drops off from last year. And I think that I'm not going to attribute it to the contract situation as much because I do think that he's going to come in shape, will be able to contribute in game one. I don't think he has the dominant game that TJ Watt did in his first game last season after doing the same and signing in the 11th hour. And I do think that he gets close to that 20 sack mark. I'm going to say 19.5 for Bosa in this one. It's just hard to have multiple back-to-back 20 sack seasons. Hard to stay healthy for 17 games. And the Niners have a bit of balance in this one and should get some other sacks from the rest of the D-line. And that brings up, how many team sacks do you think the Niners come up with in this one? The record in the NFL is 72. That was, Chicago Bears, I believe.
Well, last year he only got 18.5. He didn't get 20, like you say, Rob. Not to mean to call you out. I just think that
I know. I appreciate it. I don't know why I thought he hit the 20 mark.
We were hoping for it. We were hoping he set the record. I just think the rest of the team is vastly superior. You got Hargrave. I don't think Armstead will get 0 sacks because that's if you bet that's a very bad bet for you if you're trying to lay that down. I think the rest of the team will just be better, and he's not going to be relied upon to be the solely person, which means he's probably going to get some easy sacks, which means Hargrave and Armstead are going to push him in that direction. I think he gets 18.5, 19.5. I think he duplicates what he did. I think he should probably get more forced fumbles than he did last year, which was 2. I think he'll be in a lot of area for that type of sacks. But for the team, I'm saying 60 plus. I think last year you were all gung ho on it, and I was not. And this year I'm gung ho on it. I think Hargrave is going to make the biggest difference possible in this team. I think they're going to be able to generate pressure from the inside, and Nick Bosa is just that much of an animal to get those cleanup sacks on the outside and push that stuff into the inside. I think teams are going 60 plus.
I love that prediction. I was going gangbusters last year. I'm not changing it because I do believe Hargrave is one of those missing pieces to this defensive line. I saw a lot of maturation happening last year with our other edge players. That didn't happen. The Niners are counting on that once again. You're hoping for a new Clelin Ferrell. You're hoping that Drake Jackson takes that next step. A lot of things do have to happen for the Niners to be in that running. But I will say, I believe the Niners are 60 plus as well. I'm going to go 66 this year. Rick Diaz, we miss you as well. Yes, indeed. Spicy. Derek points out last year, 44. Yeah, so a big uptick in my prediction. Pretty close to what my prediction was last year. I do think that Hargrave addition is the huge difference.
If Armstead gets 5, the other side is Hargrave. He got 10. That's 15 right there. Yeah. 44 plus 15. That's
another 18 from Bosa. We're at 33.
Then you get a little uptick from everybody else. We're right there at 60
right
plus.
There.
We got it.
DJ Molly loves the 60 plus prediction, and Bullpup agrees. Hey, it depends if Wilkes blitzes. Okay, we're going forced turnovers. Last year, the Niners were on fire with 30. Hard to imagine that they will be able to replicate that. But hey, this defense is vastly unchanged. A few key pieces added. some ball hawks that are, there in the secondary. What do you say for forced turnovers by the Niners?
I mean, Rob, 20 interceptions for this team. Just had a hard on all season. Like that's what we've been waiting for, is just capitalizing on the defensive pressure. And then last year we didn't even have the defensive pressure, and we were ball hawks. I love it. I think we're right in the line. I think we're in the top 3 in the league. I don't want to put a number out there. I just think we were number 1 last year. I think we'll be top 3 in the league. It was just because of the fact that we have that pressure. I think all those ball hawks in the secondary are going to still be there. I think Charvarius Ward can make the case for the best corner in football next year, with him trying to capitalize on the turnovers. Because you looked at last year, he played a lot of it safe. He was playing back, and which is what the Niners' way is, right? Play back, let the guy catch it at 5 yards, and then tackle him up. I think he can make more of a gamble this year. I think that's what can happen with more pressure. And you're going to see a lot more mistakes coming from quarterbacks because we predict the 60-plus sacks. I think the Niners will be right around that 25 to 32 turnover range.
Nice. I like the prediction. I'm going 24 myself. I still think that we are in the positive when it comes to turnover differential. I think we will be near the top of the league in both of those categories. I like this one. Before we wrap on overall record, before we get there, we're talking Purdy. And this one is going with the over-under as far as Vegas sees it. So the bar is set at 3,600 yards and 24 and a half touchdowns in this one. Are you smashing the over on both, the under on both, or are you flip-flopping between the two?
Under on yards, over on touchdowns.
Ooh. Any particular reason you believe the under on yards? You think it's going to be dink and dunk all year long and defenses are going to be playing up on that?
No, I don't think it's dink and dunk. I think our defense is just great. I think we're going to get a lot of short fields. I think he's going to be able to capitalize on that. You saw it last year, and his pace was 2,832 touchdowns last year. So I think the fact that we're going to see a lot of short fields, and he'll be able to capitalize on that. I mean, Purdy's able to get the ball out of his hands. And so I think he's going to go probably 3,400 yards and about 38 touchdowns, not 3,800, 38 touchdowns.
Not 38 touchdowns. I'm here for that. What's a half a touchdown? That is to eliminate the push, bull pup. You know that, but I like it. Anyways, Gabe, you're going to have to put your prediction back in. I have no idea where it is located. Good, sir. Okay. I am going to say smashing the over on both of these. I think Purdy throws himself a 4,000-yard season, and I'm definitely taking the over on the touchdowns as well. I'm going to put him in the 30s on touchdowns, but not getting too specific. I think this offense is going to unlock. I have been saying that for a long time, and I have been wrong for a long time. I will admit that I am wrong. But I believe you finally have all of the pieces in place where you see some mini version of 2016 Atlanta's offense, right? I'm not saying that we're going to be able to push the ball as well as they did to take the top off of defenses, but we will move the ball successfully. I see this as a offensive juggernaut this year. In that vein, what is the overall record prediction for the 49ers? Tough schedule. Playing some very tough teams, a lot of air yardage for the Niners, air miles, traveling from city to city. They're at 30,000 miles for travel. Yeah. It's ridiculous. We're always tops in the league, but this year we are right there at the top, if not the number one spot for miles traveled. We got to go into Jacksonville to play a tough team. We got to play Philly. We got to play Dallas. Like, there's a lot of tough games on the schedule. What do you think it shakes out at the end of the year, Randon?
I think we're between 11 and 13 wins. I think we're right in that 11 to 13. So I guess right in the middle would be 12. I think we're 12 and 5. Yeah.
That is solid logic. It's exactly where I am. I think the Niners are 12 and 5 or 13 and 4 because of the fact that we're headed out to Pittsburgh And I think this is a tough one. I'm going to say I'm picking every single game this year as the Niners win. Let me get that out of the way first, because I think we're going 12-5 or 13-4. So I'm going to be right 12 or 13 times just by picking the Niners every single week, as opposed to trying to guess those 4 or 5 that we drop and getting them wrong and going lower in the win total. So know that going in. But I will say I'm trepidatious about this one against Pittsburgh, and therefore I'm taking the lower of my 2. I say 12-5, still good enough to win the NFC West and walk away with the division.
Then where do you think the Seahawks? So where do you think the Seahawks land? You said that we win the division, so where do you think they land?
I think the Seahawks still make the playoffs, unfortunately, but I think they do so at 10-7.
Okay. I like that. I think we're going to be only a half. I think we're going to be like a game split.
A game split. God, that's going to be too close for comfort.
Close for comfort. You look at their team last year. Geno Smith was the best completion quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. They got one of the top receivers in the draft. They got one of the top running backs in the draft. They had 2 tackles that were nominated for Pro Bowl, I think both of them made the Pro Bowl, if I remember correctly. You have corners that were jumping on. I think their team is very underrated. And because a lot of Niners fans remember the fact that we stomped their brains out both games, they're like, oh, they're not competitive. I think they can be competitive this year.
Yeah.
I also think Arizona is going to win 1 game overall. So like that, there could be some gimmies as well.
Oh, that is going to be painful. All right, I'm reading it because I said I would.
Which would suck, because Caleb Williams might be in our division for the next 15 years, which would be horrible.
That's hard to watch. I'm reading it because I said I would, but Gabe, we got to work on the length of these. He says Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns, 28-0. CMC will close it out in the 4th quarter. What's the age? The score will be 35-3. Got that in there. No problem. Troy Knoll coming in is a sneakerhead for 19 months. Much appreciation for the support.
Go
Troy
Seminoles.
Coming in to say, let's win this game Sunday. That is the most important thing. Kick off the season with a win. To Cubs' point here, don't have those foolish losses like we did last season. Let's rack up some dubs. Let's start the season.
There's always going to be those. There's always going to be those. Like every year is going to have those dumb wins.
You'll drop a game.
Yeah.
This has been a fantastic show. Spicy Randon has been in full effect. We've made predictions for the game, predictions for the year. If you're still here, do us that favor. Hit the like button. Follow Randon on Twitter and go watch his hockey podcast. All the information is down below. And Randon, thank you so much, as always, for being a part of the show, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. I'm just happy football's here. Well, I wasn't happy last night. I lost like $30 on bets, but it's only $30.
Terrible.
Couple beers.
Stay healthy. Everyone on the Niners, everyone in the chat, Randon, me, everybody stay healthy. It's been a beautiful show. Thank you to everyone that was here in the chat. We love the interaction. We love the back and forth. I will be doing a post-game show after the game against Pittsburgh. Tune in live for that and do what Raphael 562 Niners do what he says here is what I was attempting to get out of my mouth right there, Randon. Apparently, I'm having trouble with single syllables at this point. That means it is time for the show to end. Thank you to everyone, and until next time, cheers, faithful.